Well, hey, good evening and welcome, everybody. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've got lots of fun stuff to share with you and bring you up to speed on some things that are going on. And we also are going to take some time for some interactive pieces here. We want to hear from you on a few things, and we'll do some questions and answers and such. But we're just really glad you're here tonight. So thank you so much. Faith, you want to tell us what's on the agenda?
Yeah. So this today we're gonna do some welcome. We'll take time for some celebrations and wondering, sharing. What have you been celebrating? What have you been wondering? We'll do some big picture conversations, just like kind of overview some stuff that's been happening and is coming up, as well as some forecasting of things to be aware of and watching for. And then we'll do a how do you leave this place like championing and exciting and sharing what's going on. So that's what we're going to look at for today. Um,
Well, hey, all, let's pray. Let's pray. Oh, gracious, mighty, awesome God. It is really an incredible joy to be on this journey with you and together as a congregation, to get to watch all the ways that you're at work in our lives and working in and through all of us working together. Um, God, we're grateful for technology that allows us to meet over the internet tonight and share this from our homes in different places. We ask God that this time together would be honoring of you and would be helpful to all of us. So help us to understand the material here and one another's questions and thoughts, and more than anything, guide us as we go forward, that your will would be done,
mhm.
that your mission for us would be fulfilled. So, Jesus, we give you our thanks, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, so as we get started on the next piece here, a little bit about what a cottage meeting is. So a cottage meeting, Pastor Rob, is really a time for us to just be together, to be in discussion, to be in conversation. We're not going to make any asks today. We're not going to be like, hey, this is what we specifically need from you. Truly, this is just to be informative and relational. Is there anything else you'd add there, Pastor Rob?
No, just historically, we've hosted these whenever we felt like there's a lot of information we need to share, and we need some time with you to do it. So we're excited to have this time tonight.
Awesome. So our first question for today to kick us off is, what are you celebrating?
There is a lot going on in our faith community, friends, and we were just noting recently as a vision team and staff, we've only been worshiping in our new space for 9 months, and the Grove's only been open for 5.5 months. So a lot's happened in a little bit of time. So we'd love to hear from you. What are some of your celebrations right now? All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Well, the next thing we want to do here is, as we said, this is all about sharing information tonight, especially. But part of that is understanding what you're wondering, what questions you have, and/or what questions you've been getting. And we know a lot of you, will have neighbors or friends say, "So what's going on with your church, or what's going on with the Grove, or can you?" So we just want to kind of, Faith's going to track the questions that you're wondering or questions you people are asking you, and those will that'll help us know some of the things to cover and such as well, or we can get back to you later on those things. So what are you wondering? What are the questions you're hearing or having? All right. Well, so as we go along, again, we're going to share information on a variety of things, and we're going to try to do this in sort of a systematic way so it makes sense how we're moving through. And one of the first things we wanted to do is share just a reminder for everybody of kind of how our church is structured and kind of understanding some of the key kind of leadership pieces. We don't always know how that works or who's involved. And so just we'll share a reminder there. So we'll start with um, sort of our org chart, we call it. And a couple of things I just want to lift up as you look at how is New Heights structured. So of course, in the center is the cross, and hopefully in all that we do, Jesus is at the center of all of it. and then you see this circle this blue circle that connects, but it's got arrows going in and out. And that represents all of our mission partners that are a part of this faith community, but also the idea that this isn't a enclosed circle, it's a permeable boundary where people are always welcome in. And we're also a community who's always sending people out. And so our mission is always sending us out into the community, and sometimes God's sending us to other places. But we wanted to have a structure that represented the idea that we're not a closed group, we're a wide open group, always welcoming while we stay centered on Jesus. But then the two pieces at the top that I want you to notice is those two blocks, the staff and the vision team. And that kind of represents where most of our decision making and key leadership lies, is in those two places. And so underneath staff is our ministry teams. Anything that's directly ministry related is usually led by as a team of lay people, and with a staff person who leads that team or is a key part of that team, making that ministry happen. On the operations side, the vision team is accountable for the operations of the church, making sure we're fiscally sound, making sure we're following our mission and doing those things. And but in order for the vision team to effectively do its job in leading us, those a lot of those operational tasks have been assigned to our operational teams. So you see what some of those listed there, finance and personnel and such. So that's just to give you a little idea of kind of how we structure some of the leadership and accountabilities and things. Of course, beyond this, we have additional task forces and of course lots of ways that volunteers are pitching in all over the place. But
Yeah.
just wanted to give you that little idea of our structure. And then if we go to the next slide here, we wanted to also do a little refresher of staff because you don't always get to see everybody or know who they are. So I'll note, first of all, that our third person in is Jessica. She is our office administrator. Usually you don't see her on Sundays. She's often worshiping with us from home. Every now and then she comes in person, but she is in the office Monday through Friday when most of you aren't there. So we like people to know who Jessica is. If you call, that's usually the voice you'll hear. And then on the bottom row, I wanted to note our newest addition, Eugene Schultz, is our new custodian. You also usually won't see him. He's usually behind the scenes and around when the building isn't really super busy is when he comes in to take care of things. But Eugene lives in Spring Green. His role is up to 20 hours a week. And he's got full facility coverage, and sometimes he can come in to help with special events and things as well. But Eugene just started recently, and so far he's doing a really great job. So we're pretty excited about that. We also wanted to note that you probably heard that Faith's role has recently had an adjustment. And of course, when Faith first came on staff, half of her job was to be leading and overseeing the building project. Well, we've made it. We're here. We're in the Grove. It's happened, and so we're shifting parts of her role into other things. So she's going to continue to be facilitating big picture planning with the vision team and I, and really being kind of a lead partner with myself. And then a big focus of hers, though, is on the public relations and community engagement. Some of those communication questions, like Nels was asking a little bit about there. But really thinking about how do we keep the larger community informed? How do we stay connected with other leaders in the community? And part of that is not just having good relationships, but being aware of what the needs are in the community and so forth. And then on the community life development side, part of this is kind of being a volunteer coordinator in a sense. It's also overseeing our various events that we host. For instance, a congregational breakfast, or some kind of big, like we had kickball, cupcakes, and campfire. I said those in the wrong order this summer, things like that. So a lot of that stuff around getting us together, getting our volunteers connected and trained and coordinated and all of that. But so that's Faith's new role as Director of Strategy and Community Life.
So then on the Grove side, so while I am the main kind of contact for the Grove specific part in partnership with Pastor Rob, we also have two other staff that are involved in Grove specific activities according to like their formal job description now since literally the summer when we kind of revamped these pieces. So Kaya is our youth ministry director. She has always been 3/4 time youth ministry. And then this other quarter time is now with Grove support. So 25% is Grove support. She's going to be specifically heading up like rental things. Also our socials, our Facebook, our Instagram for the Grove stuff. And then Grove security management, which is like the access cards and keys and things that have to be programmed for people to get in at various times. So 3/4% youth ministry, 1/4% of the on the Grove side. One note here is we do know our youth program is growing very fast. So Kaya has said, I'd love for, a full-time youth ministry director position to be on the horizon if we can financially get there or that seems doable or reasonable for our needs. And so we are just keeping an eye on her time and how much she is or isn't able to really keep track of all these pieces. And then Jessica, as our main office administrator, has to kind of be involved in Grove stuff just because she faces a lot of the community pieces there. So this is, of course, she'll continue on all of her New Heights administration, but the Grove financial pieces where, people pay fees or have to get refunds, most of those go through the main office. And then also that correspondence, somebody walks in the building, Jessica's their first face, regardless of who or what they're here for. So that's also a part of her role on our staff here at New Heights.
So along with that, just a quick note on kind of then how our staff is structured as a whole. So in general, I'm accountable for overseeing all of our staff. And so you see where I'm at there and those underneath. Sort of alongside me is Faith in her role, and she's got some dotted lines over to Kaya and Jessica for the portions of their jobs that are related to the Grove. And then also, our custodian falls directly under Faith. She works with our facility team and oversees some of the big picture facility stuff. So that's how that's set up. A couple other notes I want to make here. You see these letters by each of our names. The FT is for full-time, PT would be part-time. Then S represents a salary staff, where UP means unpaid staff. So just a couple notes on this. Francine continues to be full-time, but she is an unpaid staff person. And that has been the case since she first came on our staff. It's a way that she wants to serve. And just to be clear, she's not a volunteer. She is a staff and she's basically full-time. She makes so much happen around our faith community. And I know not everybody's aware of her role or what kind of time and energy she puts in, but it's pretty amazing what she does, leading the charge with Heights Unlimited and all of our serve and care ministries. So we're really blessed in that way. I think you'll also notice that we have our part-time cook is on here, Karen. She's up to 10 hours a week with our family faith night meals. And so that's an important part of what we're doing as well. And then also just to note with Anna's role, we consider her full-time. Her role is she's paid 30 hours a week is what her salary is for 30 hours. So just to note that, she's doing a great job there with her basically 3/4 time role. So that's what I got on that page.
Okay. All right, so next I'm going to transition us into New Heights and Grove relationship things. So we're going to talk specifically about kind of the structure and where this is going. Hopefully this answers some of those questions. I do want to say before we get too deep in this, some of the Grove questions in terms of communication and stuff like that isn't addressed here. Some of those came up with our leadership gathering yesterday as well. And so I'll be sending some follow-up stuff about like how we're doing some things, what's going on, and ways to find that info. Also knowing that we're actively learning and changing and shifting and trying new things. So you may not see all of that content here, but if there's specific things, I will do my absolute best to follow up with you after today. So first thing, Pastor Rob, tell us about the mission difference between New Heights and the Grove.
Yeah, so just a reminder on a couple of things, because I know this continues to be confusing for people and we're trying to make sense out of it. And the first thing that I want to remind us all of is the Grove as a whole is part of our ministry and mission as New Heights. The Grove is an expression of the mission God's given us. The Grove is part of who we are and what we're about. But maybe a helpful way to think about this is New Heights Church is a who. New Heights is an us. It's about people. And so when you're thinking about the church is not the building, the church is the people. And maybe you remember the old Sunday school song. We were trying to remember it the other day. Faith, did you get it down yet? Do you have
I
it
don't
for
I don't
us?
think I know all the hand motions, but it's like the church is not a building, the church is not a steeple, the church is not a resting place, the church is the people.
Very nice. Very
Thank you.
nice.
That was a big throwback
So,
yesterday.
it was. So just a reminder, my friends, that a church community is a group of people. I know this is confusing in our culture because as in the modern world, when we think of a church, we think of a building. If I say Vermont, you think of the Vermont building, right? If I say St. Barnabas, you think of the building. Um, what the Bible says about the word church in the Bible is the word ecclesia. Ecclesia is a word that means the called out ones. It's referring to a group of people who are called out by Jesus, the called out ones. That's what the church is. And in fact, the early church, they didn't have church buildings. They met in homes, they met down by the
Hmm.
riverbank. They met in the catacombs, if they were in Rome. And so just a reminder of the who is the people. We are the church is the who. The grove is the place. The grove is the building and the land around it. So the grove is the place, the where. We are the who. And so, as a church, we have been given this. We've been blessed by God at this incredible facility that we are to steward. We get to use as a faith community, but we also get to bless the wider community with it. So our mission as a church is to love God, love neighbor, and grow disciples. Whereas the mission for the Grove is more specifically in the area of providing spaces where people can gather, connect, and thrive. So the Grove is really all about providing a space where community gathers, where people connect. And sometimes that community that's gathering is New Heights. Sometimes the community that's gathering is an AA group. Sometimes the community that's gathering is a basketball league. Sometimes the community that's gathering is the whole wider community. You get the idea. We get to own all of it. We get to steward all of it. We get to bless the community with it. We are New Heights Church, and we worship at the Grove. So I hope that helps a little bit with that. I guess the last thing I would say then is just work on being in the habit of saying, instead of saying I'm going to church, either say I'm going to worship or I'm going to the Grove. And that was something that we always said with our kids growing up. We are going to worship. That's what we're going to do. Or we're going, to family faith night, but we're going to the Grove now is the place. So some thoughts there. Okay.
Okay, so I'm about to throw a graph up. And if you are a person who panics when you see graphs, don't panic. We're gonna get through this together. So this here is an example of kind of how we currently see the Grove. And I want you to also note New Heights as kind of a comparable under here too. So on this little chart, you see New Heights is at the head with a board that is the New Heights Vision Team, as we just talked about. And in the umbrella of New Heights, is the Grove and Heights Unlimited. So Heights Unlimited is connected to the congregation via a staff member, Francine Rask. But Heights Unlimited also has its own advisory board that does a lot of decisioning, that does a lot of that day-to-day kind of operation stuff that ultimately still reports to the vision team. They are a ministry of our congregation. They're an outreach of our congregation. But we actually, like, people can make checks out to Heights Unlimited, and it can get deposited separate without the church's name even on those checks. Similarly, the Grove right now is under our umbrella. I am the kind of the staff connect right now for that ministry, that gathering ministry, and the board right now is still the New Heights Vision Team, but we see all of this as under our umbrella right now. What we're looking to do as part of our forecast today is we're looking to make the Grove its own entity, its own nonprofit that is still connected to the congregation. So with this idea, this shifts the structure to look something like this. Now, there's things I want you to see right now. It's a separate 501c3, a separate nonprofit, but in the bylaws, we are hoping to write in that whoever is elected to the New Heights board is automatically elected as the Groves board. In this space, we still have staff connection. If we make a separate entity, we have to do some more formal documents, but we still hope to have staff connection. So I will be a staff connect. Jessica continues to be a staff connect. Kaya continues to be a staff connect. And maybe down the road, there's an advisory board as well for the Grove as it grows and expands. Right now, I would understand the advisory board for the Grove looking more like leaders, people that are in the community that aren't necessarily in our faith community, but are super involved in Wisconsin Heights to say, hey, these are things we're already offering. You don't need to duplicate those things. Hey, here's some big needs that it would be great to work together on. Hey, here's some opportunities we might have to use the Grove to serve better, to help people thrive more. But noting that ultimately, still in this structure, the board is still connected to New Heights as a decisioning approval body. Now, if we have all these connections, one question you probably have is, well, then why would we even do it? Because they're still so connected to New Heights as a congregation. So I want to share just some new things that are connected in the ELCA. We are not the first congregation to consider doing this. There is a thing called a social ministry organization, or an SMO, that the ELCA has kind of established a system for. These are organizations that are like generally in the health or services kind of areas, and there's over 300 of them already existing in the nation. They're typically connected to a church, like what we're doing, and they're in over 1,400 different communities. They're impacting places like that. So while we think we're super original, we're actually not. So now we get to kind of get on board with some things that people are already doing. Some pros to why we've really considered this as a vision team and leadership team. First of all, missional clarity. So from a community perspective, when we say, hey, there's a difference between the church, New Heights, and the Grove, the space. For some people, that's still really challenging. I think for some of us, even, that's really challenging. And to be able to say, not only are they separate from, but like they're actually a different entity. They have a different mission. They have a different goal. They're both serving, but they're serving in different ways. Having them as separate entity just makes that a lot easier. Two, this is a big one, our funding opportunities. So Carol is actually on the call today. Carol does a lot of our grant writing, and she leads that. She's incredible. For Carol to get grants that don't support religious organizations is pretty impossible if we're applying for grants for community programming as a church, because it's a religious entity. So as the Grove being it's a separate nonprofit, this can now be a non-religious entity that can apply for federal dollars, for programming dollars, for support outside of only church supporting kind of foundation and grants people. The third piece here is the liability. So we're inviting a lot of other people into our space. We're hosting a lot of different types of things. And maybe something happens that is out of our control. And somebody gets sued, lawyers get involved. In this situation, that would mean that the Grove is accountable for those things, not New Heights Church, who worships in that space and uses that space throughout the week, right? So that, what? Oh, okay. So the liability piece is just a perk of that to say, nope, this is its own thing. It was set up in this way. This is who's accountable for that situation. And the fourth pro is that it's already happening. So there's a system, there's a structure. The social ministry organizations with the ELCA, there's a legal team that can actually review all of our documents to say, yeah, this makes sense. It functions well. We think you're going to be set up for success. And they have other resources with this process as well. Cons. There's a lot more paperwork when you're dealing with two entities. So we're very aware from a staff time, from a team time, we have to make agreements and we have to have, documents drawn up. So that's a con to making them separate. The other con that Pastor Evan and I really wanted to state, because it's true, is that there is some fear in having it be a separate entity, right? Like it also now has more of its own life in a way. And we're going to have to continue to be intentional as a congregation to stay invested in this ministry, to stay a part of the Grove, and to keep both organizations really working together in the long run. Now, I think with all the agreements we talked about, with the investment of our community, with the people and the leadership and the mission we all have, I have no doubt that the Grove will continue to be a resource center for all that we're doing. But we do have to continue to be intentional as we make that shift. Right. Anything to add, Pastor Rob?
Nope.
Okay. So just a reminder, this is what that kind of looks like, right? We've got Heights Unlimited under that umbrella and how we're currently working with the shift of the Grove to this space. There is a potential once we get through the SMO process with the growth, that we say, hey, this really works well. Maybe it makes sense to do this with Heights Unlimited too, because they are, they really have their own entity. They've got a great advising board. They're doing really great mission work. But we're going to take one thing at a time and see how this first step goes with the growth process. Okay. So the next thing with this process is the finances have been a question. If they're separate, is the grove contributing? Who pays for what? How does this work? So in this situation, New Heights still owns the property. The grove is kind of servicing all of these resources out of that space. Anything paid to the grove, we're looking at setting up a kind of a percentage structure so that as the grove grows, so does its contribution to our space. So in this idea, the net income or whatever money would be left after we've paid for example, the volleyball, right? We have a volleyball league. We had to buy a new volleyball net. Well, we're going to use those program costs to cover those. And then what happens to the extra dollars? The idea is that 70% of that goes to help cover staff costs because there are 3 staff members that New Heights is paying for that is doing work for this other entity's mission, right? So 70% of that goes to help cover staff costs. 20% of that goes to the building use. Like we're keeping the lights on, people are using the space, we're plowing, all of those things. And then 10% is that is kept in a grove account for ongoing reinvestment, for scholarships, for things, for paying for equipment that, a free program can't cover, et cetera. So the idea here, though, is that at the beginning, the grove may not be contributing a ton because it's brand new, we're a baby, we're a startup. But as the grove grows, more of that can be covered so that New Heights dollars can not only be used to really care for this building, but also to continue to grow ministries, to grow our outreach, and to grow the resources we have to continue to serve well. So now we're going to do a little activity. If you saw my email in advance, you may have seen there were a couple of attachments. So if you're a person who's on a computer and you want to pull up one of the attachments, you can do that. If not, if you got a pen and paper, that would be awesome. You can go ahead and find one. So I'll give you just 1 second to do that and give me a little thumbs up, either as an emoji or as a person when you've got one of those things in front of you. So while the rest of you are finding your pieces here, we're going to do a little elevator pitch exercise. So what we found is sometimes people ask us what the grove is, and all of us are like, oh, I know what the grove is, but then we haven't actually really said anything out loud or practiced, and so we kind of start to panic. So we thought it might be helpful today to just do a little bit of okay, I'm going to sit with this question. If somebody were to walk up to you and say, so what is the grove? What would you say to them? How would you explain what it looks like, what it means as a resource in our community? So a couple things about an elevator pitch. This is also on the top of that handout I sent in the email if you have that with you. So it should be a short but exciting intro designed to share a mission and opportunities. Some things to think about is what. So give some context. 2, why is it special? Why should they care about it? And 3, what are the goals? What do you hope they'll take away from what you're sharing with them? On the right side here or underneath that on your sheet, if you have that up, is kind of that reminder of New Heights as the who and the grove is the what. The mission statement that you saw, and then also just the values broken down, which you may have seen on some handouts way a while ago, but thought I'd throw those up there for you too, in case they're helpful or interesting to look at. So we're going to take just 2 minutes, and I want you to give it a shot to say, what does your elevator pitch look like? What does it mean? And if while you're writing, you're like, guys, I'm struggling with this, go ahead and just speak up. We can chat and go back and forth and share ideas as we go. So take 2 minutes. See what you got, and if you need some support or some help, just shout it out. Let's chat. Let's see what you got.
For me, at least, depends again who you're talking to and what really matters to them. But for me, an important part of this story is the Grove is something that the people of New Heights have developed because we want to serve the community. And I know that in general, our culture says that if a church is offering something, it's really because they're just trying to get you to join their church. And, we're really pushing hard against that. And so, as Nell said, we bought a grade school. And the whole point is this was a building that was going to, probably just sit and go to waste. And we saw an opportunity to make it into something the whole community could use. And so I want to help people keep hearing that message that the Grove is really an opportunity that as New Heights Church saw the opportunity to provide a space that the whole community could use. And so the church gets to use it too, but there's lots of space here for everyone for all sorts of things. And it's just a great place for people to come together. Um, so I'm proud to say that we are developing this place in partnership with the community so that the whole community has a place to gather, has a community center. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. We're going to transition into our next topic. So putting the Grove New
Yeah.
Heights relationship on pause. We're going to start to think about forward. What are we going to talk about, Pastor Rob?
So as we transition here, we want to update you on where we're at with kind of last pieces of the building project that are still being finished, and then some future things that we'd still like to do that we certainly can't do right now, but they're out there for when we can do them. And that's also going to include some information about a childcare center. So we're going to kind of walk through these projects one at a time. They're not in any certain order of priority or importance. It's just the way that we can organize the information to share it with you. But there's a number of projects that are in the works and others that we just have ideas about, but they're going to be waiting. They're going to have to wait. So if you got that information packet, the cottage meeting handout, you might want that in front of you. Faith will be pulling up pictures on the screen as well, so you'll see it there. But before we dive into those particulars of where we're going, let's also look at what we've done so far, because folks, this is really incredible. So counting all the time that's been invested, all the talents and donations and everything so far, it totals to about 3.2 million that's been invested in making the Grove happen. That's really incredible. Now, again, that's not all actual dollars. Some of that is like the donations we got from CUNA Mutual for all the furniture, right? There's a value to that. And there's a value to a lot of people's time and energy and expertise. But we've got an incredible investment in this space. We remodeled 34,000 square feet so far of the school. And we've been engaging with all ages. New ministries, programs, and gatherings are happening. People are showing up in all sorts of ways and reasons. Uh, it's pretty awesome what we've done in such a little amount of time. Now, I think part of what we want to say going forward with the community is, we're developing this space for everyone. Our congregation has already put this much skin in the game, so to speak. We're not asking anybody to build us a church. But we do need partners to make this come all the way through to the end. We need the community's help. We need the community's partnership. And so as we share these additional projects, part of that is how can we share with our community? We need your help to make this happen. Okay, so have that in the back of your mind here too. We're not saying New Heights is going to pay for all these things. It's part of the bigger picture of what we hope the community can help us with as well. Okay. Okay, so we've got a number of kind of categories here. Some things are in progress. That means we're already kind of working towards implementing. The others are in development where we're gathering information, but there's still a ways to go before it can really happen, or at least in its fullness. So grab those handouts if you got them, and I think Faith's going to lead us into the first category here.
So first category I want to talk you through that's in progress are our remaining building project pieces. So we are almost through what we said we were going to accomplish with our construction. This is what is left. So first section on that handout is the remaining building projects. There's a couple of items that we're still finalizing pieces for. So the first piece here is glass applications, basically so that if you know where my office is, it's a little bit of a fishbowl. Anybody can just peek their head in there whenever they'd like. I'm kind of on display. So there's various places like that in the main gathering space. We're looking to just add some frost, similarly in the meeting room so that you know there's people in there, but you don't just like have viewing eyes of whoever's in there while they're doing their stuff in those spaces. We're also looking at some acoustic treatments for the gathering space. If you've been in there on a Sunday morning, you know it's very boomy, very loud. That space is going to be a little boomy in general because it's so big and there's just a lot of people in there. But there are some things we're hoping to do to just help dampen and capture some of that sound so it doesn't just reverberate all over all the time. The last thing then, or the third thing is door rekeying. We're going to hope to shift this building so that everything's on one master key. Right now, we've got a new master key and we've got an old master key. So doing some rekeying to unify the building. And then a prayer wall feature. The prayer team has been kind of holding off on a prayer wall feature outside the chapel until we've had really other things solidified for just knowing how big it should be, how it fits in that space. And so we've got to finalize those plans and make that happen. At this time, there's about $7,000 left of what we had planned to spend for the remodel project. So we're hoping to keep all of this stuff within that. And we'll see kind of as things go. The acoustic treatments are going to be an internal thing the facilities team is already working on. There's a couple of different folks involved in all this. So that's where we're hoping those funds will come from to finish out that project. Pretty crazy that we had a $2 million project and we didn't go like thousands of dollars overboard yet. So really celebrating that. And that's due to all of the donation of time and all the skilled labor that's happened. I mean, we've done a lot as a congregation that we didn't have to like outsource. So thank you for all the ways you've been involved in helping make that happen.
All right, I want to tell you about some of the outside stuff. And the first part is we have not finished the front landscaping. You maybe have noticed some of the flower beds and things are just kind of waiting. So we got a plan. We worked with the landscape architect for both front and back ideas. And we decided that the front was something that we could take the plans and do it ourselves and save quite a bit of money. So the stuff you see in green is the space we'd be working on. This is right outside the front of the building. If we were to outsource this, we're talking $30,000 or so to do this. We can do it in-house for a lot closer, like maybe around 5,000. So Janet Balster is actually working right now with Ryan Dasher from Olson Toon. And we just actually got word today that we thought this was going to wait till the spring, but it actually can happen before the month's out. So the front landscaping is fast tracked all of a sudden. That's going to be happening soon. And part of the idea here is that it's not just going to be lawn. There'll be space that really invites people to sit down, to have conversation, to have quiet space to gather, to make the front of our building a space that people really can be in, not just a passerby kind of space. We will also develop in there some kind of rain garden features that will help with runoff and some of the issues with the gutters coming off of the roof. So there'll be some intentionality there as well. And just a note, if you're wondering, what's that pink space? You can kind of ignore the picture there, but the idea is in the future, when we do have a childcare center, we're going to need a toddler playground. And so that's going to go right here in the front of the building. That corner is where the two-story part is. It's kind of nestled between the front door, the new front door, and the two-story part. So we would have a little toddler playground ultimately that will be on that side of the entry. So just a little FYI, but that'll be part of the childcare stuff we'll tell you about later. All
We
right.
also, fun note today, we found out that we're going to get to reuse the sandstone from Black Earth. So if you've been involved with any of that stone was brought with us, and we're going to get to use that as part of our front feature welcoming areas. So really
That
cool.
was what was on the altar and the pulpit and also the old communion railings in Black Earth. We saved
Mhm.
that stone and we're going to incorporate some of it. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
great.
Next one.
Okay, so let's go to the back. We got a couple different pieces with the backyard here. So let's start with the prairie. So we got all that green space. Now, understand this picture is not exactly what it's going to be. It's just to give you a general idea. So the lower left corner is still green grass. We plan to keep the ball field that's there. It's great for kickball. So we plan to keep a kickball kind of space. And of course, at Confirmation, we use it for a variety of tag games and other things as well. So we'll have some green running game space, playing space. But then the yellow is a prairie, a natural prairie that we'll put in to make just a beautiful outdoor space that welcomes people to come out and enjoy the nature that way. With a walking path that goes along the creek and also cuts through the middle of that prairie with some spots where people can stop and sit, stop and pray, just enjoy God's beautiful creation. And so there'll be some intentional ways that people are invited out into that space. And also, we're planning to have a prayer labyrinth in the midst of that prairie. Now, because it's in the floodplain, we can't do any hardscapes. But so what this labyrinth will be is it'll be mowed into the prairie. It will be a mowed labyrinth, and it's just a space where you can go for quiet prayer and some time with God. So a lot of neat pieces around that. We plan to do that also soon. It looks like the first main stages will happen come the spring or early summer. We'll get started, and that won't really come to life till another full year really, but that'll be coming later. And just wanted you to see we're working on that. That will mean less mowing in the back also, so that will be a
Mhm.
savings there. So between this backyard piece of the prairie and the front landscaping, the vision team has approved using 15,000 or so of our savings to actually go ahead and make those pieces happen. We just felt like those are really important pieces to really using our full property and making it something that we can really use well. And so we've got Janet again, kind of moving forward on pulling that together. So that's the update there.
Okay. Then in development, so the first thing in development, these are things that we're aware of, we're wrapping our heads around, we're gathering more information, or we're doing funding work on. So these are things that are going to be on the horizon and should be watched for. The first thing here is our outdoor campus. We want to talk through this piece. So Pastor Rob talked about kind of the front lawn and the back lawn. There are some other campus enhancements that were a part of that landscape design that we did. And so the first piece here is the natural play area. So we have an awesome property. We also have half a property that's in the floodplain. And we also have minimal parking. So as a part of the building design, our original architect planned for a parking extension that could potentially wrap from our east parking lot all the way back around to Elm Street. Right now, that's where the playground is. We also know that our current playground, as Laura pointed out, could use some love. And we've had people actually come out to look at it that have basically said, if you're going to do anything, you have to take the whole thing out because it's no longer ADA compatible. It no longer meets the requirements of a playground. And you cannot keep any of the items on the playground if you would like to touch this. And as soon as we touch one piece, we have to touch the whole thing because that's how grandfathering works in the world. So we are looking at other options for a playground. When we were talking about this with the stewardship team, we have Lions Park literally a couple blocks away from a larger community playground perspective. And so we decided to look at just a more unique playground that could use the hillside and some of that floodplain prairie to our advantage and to encourage outdoor and natural and creative play in our kids and our families. So the first part of this kind of outdoor play space is a natural play area that would kind of be built into the hillside. And you can see some example pictures here. None of these are exactly anything, but these are kind of pictures to give you kind of ideas. So you can see, there's bridges structures or climbing boulders. Maybe there's a slide that's built into the hill that you slide down, maybe there's a rock wall feature that you climb up the side and you roll around, whatever. Marilee also has some natural logs or the weaving posts where it's really trunks and stumps that you weave through and jump on top of and roam around. So this is a very abstract kind of idea, but this is the direction we're hoping to go. If we're going to invest a lot in a playground, we have a lot of natural and creative play space to use. And so we think we want to embrace that. And then also just being cognizant of if, 10, 20 years down the road, our neighborhood needs more parking for the Grove. The only place it can go because of the floodplain is where the current playground is. So that would then also be thinking long-term. So we're not putting something in and then taking it out. within the next season of life here. So those are what we're thinking. One piece here is that Anna recently got a $2,000 grant to actually help fund some pieces in this. So there may be some pieces that we get to actually move on sooner than later because of grant funding. And Olson Toon is going to be in that conversation now if they're going to be bringing equipment out, but we don't have a lot of details. That was also a thing we talked about today. So you're on the cutting edge of where we're at with the natural playground and the grant dollars right now. All right, next thing that we're in development on is the back patio. Pastor Adnan, tell us about that.
Yeah, part of our backyard is the opportunity to host some large events back there, including we could host outdoor worship, we can host outdoor weddings, other kinds of speaking events or community gatherings, and especially as we beautify that back prairie and with the creek back there, it could be a really great place to host events and in terms of from a venue perspective of raising funds, hosting weddings out there, things like that, that can really be an income generator we're thinking about too. But the first step is the pavement itself that's out there is in poor condition. And so at some point we will want to redo that whole surface. That would allow us to get rid of the step that's outside the door from the cafeteria. That would be great. But so to repave that patio is going to be a good $40,000. It's unbelievable, but it's a lot of square footage of asphalt that we would need. So this is with a local person working with us to make it as cost effective as possible. So the numbers on this is really outstanding, actually. And then also just in that whole back courtyard, at some point we want to DIY, do it ourselves, kind of fancy it up or just make it a nice, welcoming outdoor space, whether that's painting, whether that's adding, different kinds of decorations and things. We will at some point put some energy into fixing it up in that back patio area and really making it a nice space that can be used. So, all right.
Okay. And then last thing here, Pastor Rob.
So one piece that came forward from our land I forgot the name of the team all of a
Land
sudden.
stewardship team.
Land stewardship team, thank you. Working with our landscape architect, Marilee. A piece we got really excited about was this outdoor amphitheater. It's got a hefty price tag to it. So it's only going to happen if something special happens to make it happen. So, but it's a dream that will be fun to implement at some point. And so the idea here is if you were walking towards the back of the Grove through the parking lot as it currently stands, you'd walk straight forward and there's this big, huge cottonwood tree standing back there and Faith circling it in the picture. That is the big green circle you see on the color graph there is this big elm tree. And so building into the hillside there, along with the natural curve of the ground, we want to do this natural amphitheater. This would have enough spaces for around 130, at least children for sure. Some of us adults might need a little more space than that, but um, it's remarkable how many we could actually fit. And so I want you just to imagine hosting some special events out there. This would be a great space for like Vacation Bible School or any kind of youth event to have this natural outdoor gathering space. But I also imagine a family, pulling in on a nice Saturday morning, looking for just to, enjoy the walk by the creek and the natural prairie. And then you got the little 5 and 6 year old taking center stage as their parents watch and they put on a show. An amphitheater is a wonderful place for imaginative play for children to dream big and showcase their talents and such. And but the idea here with where that tree is, there's a retaining wall, and this becomes a natural like lookout point. So you walk forward through that parking lot, and all of a sudden you are on a space where you can look out and see everything. And it's meant to sort of draw you out to see the creek below, the natural prairie, to admire God's creation. It really gives us a place to sort of showcase the beauty of this space. So a couple neat features there, and another one of those ways to draw people to our space. So I think that's the main notes I had with that one.
Yeah. All right, next thing in development has to do with our west branch, which is where our gymnasium is. So first thing on our west branch is the gym floor. This guy's in rough shape and needs a lot of love. So the facilities team is actively working to gather more information on this piece, and there's actually been some grant work also done to start to pursue this goal. We had a estimate of 19,000. I think yesterday I was told it's actually lower than that now due to some adjustments with the gym folks, the resurfacing folks. So the current floor we have is a wood floor, and it does require regular resurfacing. And the school district was doing that. There was actually a basketball group that was helping pay for that. But also the lines aren't actually correct for all sports. And there's a huge pickleball need. And if you know Mike Ecker, he's already got people doing it. He's teaching folks, and it's a growing thing already at the Grove. But there aren't actually any pickleball courts on the lines. So the goal here is not just to take the surface off, but to actually add some more lines, bring some things up to new codes and measurements and things as well. There's kind of two options we're looking at. One is just redoing that wood floor, and the second is potentially looking at more of a sport court cover. It doesn't need resurfacing. It has a longer life on it. There's pros and cons to both. So we don't know officially what we're doing, but those are some things that are in the works. We've already got $6,000 towards this effort, thanks to some donations and some grants that we received. So this is an in progress, but there's still both research and funding being worked on to make this space, just to give it a little boost of life. Yeah. Then the next thing on the West Branch is gym cooling. So also, if you've been in the gymnasium on a hot day, you will know that there is no AC or a lot of airflow. So this is on our radar as something that we can be aware of as a congregation and as a community. This could look like fans just to help make the airflow work a little more. This may look like an formal AC. There's some current potential options under review. Although at this time there are no formal plans or formal investments ready. We're just aware that this is a need, and it's come up a couple times with folks who have been in there and used that space. This is especially a hard thing when you have a really large event in there that isn't even necessarily a sporting activity, but there's a flea market or there's a wedding reception or there's a really large gathering. That space gets very hot pretty quickly. Memorial Day is another great one. So yeah, that's on our radar, and people that are in the loop are working to kind of gather more information there. Okay.
Last but not least, the Childcare and Learning Center. So the vision team's really been talking about this because, as you'll see, the cost to make this happen is quite extensive. And we really had a heart to heart at Vision Team and said, listen, where is this what we're called to do? What are we thinking about this? And bottom line, this is one of the greatest needs in our community right now is childcare. It is a desperate need. And young families have no options right now or have very limited options in our community. And we also feel like our building is the perfect place for this to happen. It's a tremendous opportunity for us to serve one of the greatest needs in our community. So our feeling really in leadership is, no, this is something we're called to do. So it's up to us all to figure out how to make it happen. And so we've been working through that. We have some great ideas. We're going to share with you what our latest thought is, how we can do it. But Faith, why don't you walk us through what it's going to take?
Yeah. So earlier this year, we've all been talking about childcare. Hopefully you've heard various pieces throughout the season. At the beginning of the season, we were looking at partnering with a group called In the Beginning Childcare and Learning Center. And in that partnership, we've kind of figured out what it actually is going to cost to bring this space to life in our existing space. Because we are touching, similar to our playground, an older part of our facility, we have a lot of upgrades that have to happen for it to work. So by touching and making door changes and exit changes, I want you to see first in this little picture here, we're looking at putting the childcare center in on that southeast side of the building. So kind of if you were to go towards Heights Unlimited, you're walking past the youth room and you take a right, would be childcare center, and then it would match on the top floor. So with that as the kind of layout, the idea, they would use that door that leads to Ann Street. We don't really use that door right now. That would be the childcare center entrance, with kind of dividers that would break off so that you can't just like stroll into a kindergarten classroom or if you're here volunteering for a random activity. So some separation in the building as well to make that happen. Because littles need doors to the outside for security, we have to change our code, which means we have to add sprinklers to the building. And we can't just sprinkle where the kids are, we have to sprinkle the entire facility. So if a childcare center goes in, we are now sprinkling the first and second floors of the East Branch and the gymnasium, which comes out to $125,000 with a book. We also know that there's some general investments, right? I mentioned the door dividers, some bathroom pieces, the fob so that they can get into their spaces, right? That comes out to about 80,000. There's also the startup cost of supplies and furniture and toddler coloring things. In the beginning, estimated about 110,000 for that. And then we already mentioned that toddler playground kind of in that front area. The estimate for that is $40,000. So you'll see the total estimate for a childcare center to physically go into our building is $355,000, which is a lot of money, which is why we went to the vision team to say, hey guys, this is pretty hindering. Is this really what we're called to do? Does this feel important? Do we want to keep and continue to consider this? And everybody has said, yes, it's a big need. What are our other options? So, Pastor Rob, do you want to talk us through kind of what our new idea proposal is to help make this happen?
Yeah, and again, don't flip it on me just yet.
Oh,
I'll set it up first. That's, here we are. Surprise.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So a couple things. The church is not in a position to take out another loan, right? We have a mortgage on the remodel. So the church isn't going to borrow any more money. We're not going to do that. And we probably couldn't do that. Also, in the beginning, who we were planning to partner with, they also aren't in a position where they could invest this kind of capital on a building that's not even their own space. It would be ours that they'd be renting space from us. So without us having the dollars, without in the beginning, well, what do we do? And so now we can flip the slide, and what we're wanting to do is actually establish a new business, a new nonprofit 501c3 childcare center. So just like what we're doing with the Grove in making it a separate nonprofit that still is under New Heights, we would be doing the same thing we're proposing with a childcare center. It would remain under us, under our board would have the ultimate oversight. But this would be a separate 501c3 that we would be creating. And the idea is that this new entity could get its own business loan in order to get the funds for the project. But we're not going to just go get a bunch of money and do it from scratch. We actually have also realized it's not an all or nothing, which that makes it much more doable and means we can implement some pieces right away or soon. So I think Faith, is that next part yours? It is, isn't it? So yeah, tell us how we want to do this in a way that makes sense.
So the current proposal that we look at doing a phased approach to the childcare. We know that after school is also a huge need around here. We actually have a meeting with the existing after school care program at Wisconsin Heights. We know they have a huge wait list, and this continues to be a need. Our building is pretty much already set up to do after school care well. We don't have to make big facility changes or add extra doors. It's a very, let's just make sure we have the structure to do it well. So the idea would be to do an after school program first, kind of get our feet under us, establish a process, get kids in the building regularly. Then once the entity is established as a childcare center, actually just start with upper childcare. So 2.5 to 4-year-old. The infants are the kiddos that require us to make all these huge facility changes, which trigger all of these other things. If we can start with the 2.5 and above, one, again, it helps us get our feet under us without getting too big too quickly. And it also will help us kind of save some dollars to work towards growing into those younger ages to eventually ideally serve 0 to 12 in the childcare center. Why? So I talked about gradual growth. We don't have to be like functioning as highly as possible. The phased approach here means that dollars that are made from an after school care program might be able to be set aside to continue to build towards this bigger thing. So over time, the infants are also the most expensive to care for because of ratios and their needs and their necessities. And then again, that facility impact of those littles. So we're really excited about this. It's kind of a newer approach as well, and there's a lot to figure out still, but it's a difference from what we've been saying before. So a key thing to note if people are asking or if you're talking about it, that it's probably not going to be everything right away, but there's a lot of good reasons to do it in that way.
Okay, so how do we make this happen? When we take this phased approach that, as Faith kind of hinted at there, that does mean actually we could be profitable right off the top with it. It could be making some dollars right away that could be set aside to make this happen. But also, this is something that we want to take to the larger community. Again, we see the Grove as a partnership with the community, and we see these not only the community, the child care center, but some of the other pieces too. We want to invite the community to help us, to partner with us in making it happen. And so we are going to be making some asks. And in fact, I'll share with you in a moment, a really great gift we already received. So third, grants. We're going to be looking at grants specifically to make childcare happen. There's grant money out there because this is such a huge need in our country right now. And then again, this separate entity could have its own, we use the word mortgage. I think probably the better word is business loan in order to make that happen. So that's how we see this coming together. In the meantime, we're going to be looking to actually create a task force to kind of put it on a little bit faster track and get us moving forward. It may be that we're able to do the after school programming as early as January. We'll see. We'll see. But we'll start moving forward with implementing some of those pieces. So that gives you kind of the overall things in progress, things in development, what we're thinking of, and all of these. We wanted you to have that handout so you had a reference, you had some data right in front of you. That way, also again, you can share information with others. You have concrete data to work with. So please keep those, and now you're up to speed on what we're thinking about.
The other thing I want to share before we get to the next piece here is just noting that like these are things that are physically impacting the Grove that we're aware of from that campus enhancement perspective. But just reminder that we're in this space and there are amazing needs that we're already working to serve with what we have and the resources we are here. So just know, right, we don't like other things don't have to stop while we continue to work through this. And this is all a part of the Grove growing and expanding and the opportunity we have to serve because of this new resource we have to steward. So, any questions?
What can we clarify? And we are going to talk about the finances here in just a moment. So we'll give you that little last bit. But anything on what we've shared so far that you want to just clarify? So let's just look really quick at where we're at with on the finance side. And a reminder with this to say, we knew this was going to be a startup year, and we actually anticipated a deficit this year. We knew that was going to be a part of our situation, and that is in fact the case. And I know Jeff asked ahead of time early on. You said, "So yeah, are people using the building? What's happening there?" We do have some people using the building. In fact, our building use income is higher than we anticipated it being, so that's great. But we are in a deficit, and actually our giving is below what we projected our giving to be with the deficit. So we are in need of our mission partners to continue to give as they pledged or as they're able. Actually, Andy Bartel was sharing with us. He said, actually, we're seeing this trend across the country right now because of where our economy's at, because of all the inflation. People have been pulling back with their giving to all sorts of nonprofits. So we fall into that. So we are not only in the deficit we planned for, but we're even more so below that. And so a couple pieces around that are important. There's no need to panic. We're fine. We still have $190,000 in our savings. Okay. And we did start this year with a surplus. Now that surplus will all get used up with the deficit. We expected that, but we're not panicking. But again, I do need to say that your giving really matters. Your giving really makes a difference. And in order for us to do this, we do need your giving. Now, this speaks to Patty's question earlier too. Patty asked about, are we able to afford this building? Is it sustainable? We do think that it is sustainable, and we think that it will absolutely get there. And as far as a church, we've got new people coming in every Sunday. We're getting new guests. We've got a lot of people that are just really excited about what's going on and what's happening. So we're continuing to grow as a faith community. So the economy is rough right now. That's how things go sometimes, but there's a lot of energy and a lot of positive things happening. So we do think it's all sustainable and doable. We're not worried about that. Again, the Grove's been open for 5.5 months. So it it
It's
feels
just
like
a
in some ways
baby.
it feels to me like it's been 5 years already. And it's like, no, we literally barely opened our doors. So, we all need to keep remembering that as well. And we're learning as we go and we're figuring things out.
Mhm.
And I think it's also important to say that if something's easy to do, it doesn't require faith to do it. Um, you know, God's challenged us with this, and it does require for us to put our trust in Him. This isn't something we can just do easily on our own. Does require us to put our trust there and to keep working together and to keep boldly stepping forward. And I know, that's been our story from the beginning. We've had to keep doing that, and we will continue to. And so for me, that's part of the essence of faith here. Obviously, we need to be responsible, and we've got excellent leadership who are very thoughtful and responsible with these things. So that last note you see, that last bullet point does note. So far, we've got about 64,000 in grants and outside gifts this year. Carol's done an awesome job and on as well with getting us some grants. We had a $50,000 gift, or well, it hasn't been, it's promised once we decide how we want to use it, from someone who doesn't even live in our community, isn't connected to New Heights or the Grove, but they were introduced to our project and what we're doing. Faith and I and Andy Bartell hosted them at our site. We shared with them the story and what God's doing, and they said, "I'd like to help you make this happen. I'd like to pledge." Actually, as a couple, we'd like to pledge $50,000 to you, and we want to help you do this. So that's also a reminder that there are people. What we're doing is pretty important and pretty special, and we should proudly share that. As Betsy was saying, you know, we got a lot to brag about here. So let's keep sharing that news. And when there are people who God will bring along to help us make this happen, it's pretty exciting. Um, Now, if you're wondering, okay, so Pastor Rob, you said we need some more giving. What do we do? Just a reminder, if you go to the giving page on our website, this is what the top of the page looks like. The regular ministry fund is usually the best place to make a gift, because if a gift comes to the regular ministry fund, then it allows us to use it however it can best be used. And so those dollars can go towards anything and everything as needed. We do have the option, though, of some special gifts. You could give directly to the mortgage payment giving. We've got dollars coming in through the end of our Shine Appeal and then these mortgage payment gifts. Right now, our mortgage payment giving is on track. We're actually a little ahead on that. So that's right where we want it to be. So we hope that people who are making those gifts will continue. But if you're looking to like make an impact on something right now, it's really the regular ministry where we need those dollars for our annual operating budget. And then just a note, we always do take special gifts that are above and beyond. And if you'd like to give a gift in honor or memory of someone, something like that, please do. And again, you can either designate it for something specific that then we will use it for, or it can be given undesignated to be used as needed. And then in that sense, it's like for the regular ministry fund. So, you can think about how you want to do that. But um, we have a lot of generous people giving in all sorts of ways, and it's pretty miraculous what's happening in our faith community right now. So, thank you to all of you. I know you have lots of things you can be doing with your time, and you chose to be here tonight. So we really appreciate it. We appreciate your generosity and your support and your faith. All of it matters, and it's appreciated. So last few slides, and we're done. Francine reminded us of this. She said, when we started Heights Unlimited, we decided it was going to be self-funded, and we said that's okay because money follows mission, and that the idea there is when we're doing God's work, people get excited about it and they want to make it happen, and that's what we've been seeing, and we'll continue to see that. So let's just keep knowing that and believing that as we do what we're called to be doing, God will find a way to make it happen. Heights Unlimited has been entirely self-funded from the very beginning and is doing incredible ministry. So Faith, bring us home.
Alrighty. So, being a champion, making it happen, telling people what's going on here. What are ways that you can champion what we're up to? So, first of all, spiritually engaged. We do all of this as an outflow of what Jesus has done for us and as a part of our mission to do this together. And so, first thing is worship fully. Be in scripture, be in relationship, do the book study, take a look at a small group, just be spiritually engaging and growing as we all kind of start there, and then we get to do this out of that place. Physically engage. If you've got gifts, that'd be awesome. If we got a work day coming up, we'd love to see you there, right? So physically engaging. 3, share your gifts. There are 96 people that are involved in regular ministry teams, and that's not counting any task forces or Heights Limited volunteers or Sunday morning people. This is an amazing faith community, and everybody's playing their part. So if you've got gifts and we're not using them and you want them to be used, let's talk. Let's get you plugged in. Share those with us. Give consistently. It's helpful to get those random gifts if you feel called to give so, but it's also really helpful to have giving that we can just rely on. And we know month to month or week to week or however that works best for your family. Let us know, and then stick to that if you can, and let us know if something changes as well, where there's never you have to fulfill exactly. But we just appreciate that communication and that consistency. Stay informed. It's hard to share about what's happening if you feel out of the loop. So there's so many different ways to get communication. And if you're having a hard time, check in with us, but do what you can to also seek out those opportunities. We've got e-news, we've got social media, we've got Sunday announcements. There's flyers and brochures and various staff. So use the resources if you have them and can find them, and do what you can to also seek out what we're giving. And then finally, just spread that word. As Pastor Rob said, we have more people coming to New Heights because people are talking about it, because people hear about your story, they hear your experience, and they want to be a part of that. This last Sunday, we had over 210 people worshiping on a Sunday. And some of those are people we knew, and some of those are people we didn't. And it's because of how we talk and how we share and how we invite people, and then how we show up with them as well in that space. So, yeah, here's some ways you can champion. If you need help, let us know. And if you have other ideas, tell your friends, share with your family. We do this together.
All right, friends, thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. If you want to hang on to ask any questions, you're welcome to do so, as I offered earlier. But otherwise, thank you so much, and God be with you. Have a great night.